All representatives, please take your seats. A voice echoed across the grand chamber, its acoustics designed to command respect. Members of the Galactic Council moved into their places, each species as distinct as the planets they hailed from. Here, in this ancient hall, decisions that shaped entire sectors of the galaxy were made. The Council had been the guardians of order for eons, overseeing the rise and fall of civilizations. Their technological superiority and political acumen had kept them in power for countless cycles. Today, however, the meeting was merely routine. The next item on the agenda, the human species. Hardly of any real importance, most believed. The humans, a raspy voice started, its source a tall, insectoid figure seated at the far end of the table. Ah, yes, the newcomers. They've managed to crawl out of their own solar system, haven't they? A soft murmur of amusement rippled through the chamber. The speaker, High Chancellor Zorda, was known for her sharp tongue and sharper claws. She continued, primitive, emotional, and erratic. It's a wonder they've survived this long at all. Their technology is, what's the polite term, quaint. A blue-skinned delegate leaned forward, his golden robes shimmering under the light. They are, after all, barely a few millennia old as a space-faring species. We've seen this before. Such species usually self-destruct within their first few centuries of interstellar travel. I give them another few cycles before they implode. This was the common sentiment. Humans, while interesting, posed no real threat. Their development was rudimentary. Their exploration efforts laughable. They were emotional creatures, too emotional, really, to ever be serious contenders in galactic affairs. A few council members, though, didn't speak, watching the conversation with reserved curiosity. There have been some interesting reports, though. A quieter voice added, the speaker's face hidden behind a veil of silvery fabric. Their expansion is faster than anticipated. They may not have the technology, but they're resourceful. Resourceful? Zorta chuckled. That's the word we use for creatures who get lucky. They stumble, they adapt, they fumble forward, but never with any real understanding of the cosmos. They're toddlers in a galaxy of adults. The chamber's massive central screen flickered on. A deep-toned alert chimed, indicating an incoming transmission. Speaking of our resourceful friends, it seems the humans have arrived. Zorda gestured to the display with mild disinterest. The screen brightened, revealing a fleet of ships approaching from the edge of the system. A few council members glanced up casually, expecting to see the clunky, outdated vessels humans were rumored to use. A long silence settled over the room. What is that? One of the delegates whispered, the disbelief thick in his voice. The ships on the display were not what they had expected. Zorda leaned forward, her eyes narrowing as the display zoomed in on the approaching vessels. The human fleet, sleek and almost predatory in design, glided through space with an eerie precision. Massive battleships, their hulls reflecting the distant starlight, moved with coordinated efficiency, surrounded by smaller, more agile craft that darted around like hunting birds. The council chambers, once filled with condescending murmurs, were now silent. This can't be right. Another member stammered, her voice breaking the tension. Are we certain these are human ships? Impossible, Zorda hissed, scanning the data flowing beneath the live feed. They weren't supposed to have this level of technology. How did we not detect this? The silence grew heavier. The sensors had confirmed the origin. These ships were undeniably human. Another delegate, one of the council's more cautious members, spoke up. Perhaps we've underestimated them. We should proceed carefully. Zorda's eyes flicked between the council members and the fleet approaching their space. No. This is still the same species, rash, impulsive. Maybe they've stolen this technology, or made some kind of alliance. But they can't possibly wield this power with any skill. Not yet. Yet, as the human fleet drew closer, there was a growing sense of unease. The Council had assumed they knew the full extent of humanity's capabilities. Now, as they stared at the display, they began to realize just how much they might have overlooked. The arrogance that had permeated the room earlier was now being replaced by something far more unsettling. We should prepare a response, one member suggested, his voice shaky. We can't let them think they can approach us unchallenged. Zorda, though still clearly rattled, regained some of her composure. Yes, we'll meet them. But this doesn't change anything. They've arrived, but we're the Galactic Council. No matter what tricks they've managed, we are still the masters of this galaxy. The others nodded, though the tension in the room was palpable. Zorda's words sounded firm, but even she couldn't mask the flicker of doubt in her eyes. As the human fleet approached the Council's space, all eyes remained fixed on the display. What had been expected to be an insignificant meeting was now anything but. This was no longer a simple delegation. The Council prepared for their encounter, their confidence visibly shaken. The humans were coming, and the Council had no idea what to expect. The first ship broke through the darkness, emerging from hyperspace with a ripple of light. Then another, and another, until the space outside the Council's grand station was filled with a vast armada. The ships weren't the clunky relics the Council had anticipated. These were marvels of precision, gleaming against the black backdrop of space. Sleek, angular designs dominated the fleet, each vessel optimized for a purpose the Council could barely comprehend. The hulls shimmered with an almost organic quality, reflecting the stars in ways that made them seem alive, predatory even. For a moment, there was silence. The Council stared at the display, the weight of disbelief settling over them like a heavy blanket. This was not the human fleet they had been expecting. These ships were nothing like the crude constructions of a young, inexperienced species. They were masterpieces of engineering, bristling with unknown technologies. Those can't be human, someone muttered, their voice tinged with disbelief. The ships moved too smoothly, too precisely, as if every component worked in perfect harmony. Nothing about this made sense. The humans weren't supposed to be capable of this. Council members exchanged uneasy glances. The data streaming in from their sensors only added to the confusion. The ships defied analysis. Each time their systems tried to scan one of the vessels, the data would return incomplete, as though the ships were cloaked in some sort of advanced countermeasure. Yet, the ships made no effort to hide themselves. It was as if the technology was simply beyond the Council's understanding. How did they build this? One of the senior delegates asked, his voice trembling. We would have detected any effort to construct ships of this scale, this complexity. A low murmur of agreement spread through the room, but no one had answers. The display zoomed in on one of the larger vessels, a massive ship shaped like a wedge, with intricate patterns running along its surface. There were no visible weapon systems, yet the sheer presence of the ship exuded a quiet threat, as though it could dismantle anything in its path without breaking stride. The room buzzed with tension as the first communication from the humans arrived. The message was calm, almost formal, requesting permission to dock or begin diplomatic talks. Yet, the tone was unmistakable, a quiet confidence that didn't need to boast. They knew what they had, and more importantly, they knew the Council didn't. They want to talk? Zorda's voice was tight, her earlier arrogance crumbling under the weight of this new reality. After arriving like this? Another delegate, one who had been more vocal about dismissing the humans earlier, now leaned forward, a nervous energy radiating from him. We can't let them get too close. If they've hidden this from us, what else could they be capable of? The room buzzed with rising anxiety. Could humanity, the species they had once dismissed as reckless and primitive, have been hiding their true potential all along? Was this a show of force, or worse, the prelude to an invasion? They're flaunting it, someone whispered. They're showing us they're not afraid. The human fleet had done more than arrive. It had made a statement. The way the ships moved in perfect synchronicity, the elegance of their design, even the lack of overt aggression, it all suggested an intelligence the Council had failed to predict. They weren't here to beg for recognition. They were here to be seen, to be acknowledged as equals, perhaps even superiors. Zorda's fingers twitched, her usual composure cracking. We need to respond. They're testing us. But how? Some on the Council argued for diplomacy, unsure of the humans' true intentions. A few suggested caution, fearing that even the slightest misstep could trigger a conflict they were unprepared for. And then there were those who spoke in whispers, advocating for more drastic measures. Could they risk allowing these humans, with their unpredictable advancements, to gain a foothold in the galactic political landscape? Tension rippled through the room. The Council had spent millennia mastering control, maintaining order. Yet now, they found themselves on uncertain ground. Humanity, once seen as a curiosity, now stood before them as a potential rival, a force that had somehow, against all expectations, achieved a level of advancement that defied logic. "We need time," one delegate finally said, trying to steady his voice. "We can't act rashly. Not now." Zorda's gaze was fixed on the display, where the human fleet continued its silent approach. Time was a luxury they weren't sure they had. The humans had arrived, and nothing about this situation was proceeding as expected. The Council had been caught off guard, and now, the balance of power was teetering. The murmurs grew louder. Some members urged immediate engagement, fearing what else the humans might be hiding. Others argued for a measured approach, cautioning that underestimating them again could prove catastrophic. In the end, the Council had no choice but to engage. The humans had shown their hand, and now the Council would have to play theirs. But as the human fleet loomed ever closer, one thing was certain: the galaxy had changed, and it was the humans who had brought that change to their doorstep. A ripple of light flickered across the Council chamber as the transmission from the human fleet came through. The image resolved into a single figure, standing tall and composed. The human leader, Admiral Reyes, wore no insignia of conquest or arrogance, but the quiet confidence in her gaze silenced the Council. Her voice, steady and unyielding, echoed through the grand hall, cutting through the tension like a blade. "Greetings, members of the Galactic Council. I am Admiral Reyes of the Terran Fleet. We come in peace, but make no mistake, we have come prepared." Her words hung in the air, an unspoken challenge lingering behind them. The Council, once dismissive of humanity, now found themselves captivated, watching as this human, this mere primitive, spoke as though they had always belonged here. For the first time, the Council listened, not just heard, but truly listened. The poise of the Admiral was unexpected. She spoke with the composure of a diplomat who had navigated 1,000 crises, not the reckless bravado they had associated with humanity. Gone was the image of a species too emotional, too chaotic to handle the intricacies of interstellar politics. In its place stood something different, a quiet power that demanded respect. "You must be wondering how we've arrived at this point, undetected and underestimated," Reyes continued. "Let me explain. Humanity has never had the luxury of long peace or secure borders. We were born into struggle, forged through wars we didn't start, and rebuilt from the ashes time and again. Each time we fell, we rose stronger. Our strength is not just in our technology, it's in our resilience. You see us now, but what you don't understand is how far we've come in so little time." The Council, once so sure of their superiority, shifted in their seats. The Admiral's words carried weight, drawing their attention to a truth they had overlooked. Humanity had thrived in the harshest of conditions, advancing through sheer will, adapting in ways other species had never needed to. They had taken their limited resources and pushed them to the absolute limit. Innovation was not a luxury for humans, it was survival. We have no ancient empires or legacies of conquest. We have no millennia of peace to rest on. What we have is something you never accounted for: our ability to adapt, to learn, to innovate. You see these ships? She gestured to the fleet visible on the screens. And you wonder how we built them without your knowledge. The truth is, we didn't need to be seen to grow. We built these through cooperation, through understanding the importance of unity when the odds were against us. The Council members exchanged glances, their earlier arrogance dissipating. These ships, these marvels of human ingenuity, had not been born from wealth or abundance, but from necessity. Every curve, every gleaming surface, was a testament to a species that had learned to survive against all odds. And now, they stood before the Council not as beggars or conquerors, but as equals. Reyes paused, allowing her words to sink in before continuing. You underestimated us because you saw only the surface, our youth as a species, our lack of long-standing history among the stars. But what you failed to see was what lay beneath. While you were watching us with disdain, we were learning, advancing. We mastered technologies not through vast resources but through innovation and need. Our ships are equipped with systems that can adapt faster than you've imagined possible. AI that evolves, propulsion systems that bend the very fabric of space, and weaponry designed not for war, but for defense. As she spoke, the Council's sensors continued to struggle, failing to fully comprehend the intricate technology that powered the human fleet. Some members sat in stunned silence, others in awe, their assumptions shattered. How could this species, so young in the galactic sense, have surpassed even their most advanced calculations? One council member finally broke the silence. We had no idea. You've achieved all of this in such a short time. It's remarkable. Reyes nodded slightly, her expression unreadable. We achieved it because we had to. Our history is not one of long-standing power, but of survival. We never had the luxury of complacency. Every advancement we've made has come because we were pushed to the brink. It is in our nature to rise, to grow, to surpass expectations. And now, we stand before you not as an inferior species, but as your equal. The Council, once so sure of their dominance, now found themselves rethinking everything they had believed. The humans had achieved what they thought impossible. Not just in terms of technology, but in resilience, in the sheer will to overcome every obstacle in their path. The admiration was no longer veiled, it was open, and in some cases, laced with a touch of fear. There was no longer any room for doubt. Humanity had arrived, not as a curiosity to be dismissed or a threat to be crushed, but as a force in its own right. The council members who had once advocated for caution or even preemptive strikes now found themselves reconsidering. Humanity wasn't a fleeting phenomenon, they were here to stay, and their rise was undeniable. The silence that followed was palpable, thick with realization. Finally, Zorda, the most vocal of the skeptics, leaned forward, her voice measured. You have proven yourselves. We see now that we were hasty in our judgment. Humanity has more than earned its place in the galaxy. A few other council members nodded, their expressions transformed from skepticism to respect. Reyes gave a subtle smile, but it was filled with understanding, not triumph. We seek not to dominate but to contribute. To ensure that the galaxy is a place where all species, young and old, have a chance to thrive. We ask for a seat at the table, not because we demand it, but because we have earned it. The council deliberated, but the outcome was clear. Humanity had earned their place. No longer could they be dismissed as insignificant or reckless. They were innovators, survivors, and now, a power to be reckoned with in the galaxy. As the meeting concluded, the human fleet began its ascent back into the stars. The council, forever changed, watched them go. The galaxy had shifted in ways they had never anticipated. Humanity's rise had altered the balance of power, not through conquest, but through sheer will, determination, and the undeniable strength of their potential. And as the Terran ships disappeared into the vast expanse of space, one thing became clear: this was only the beginning. Humanity's role in the galaxy had just begun.